Welcome back to the Grand Solar Minimum channel. Today is Tuesday, July 16th, 2019. Tonight's show, thanks to our producer Mari, who is always a hard worker, for putting together these links on our website. Let's get started with some space weather news. First of all, our solar wind speeds are sitting at a 370.5 kilometers per second with a density of 1.5. Today, again, we do not have any sunspots, and we'll go ahead and take a look at that real quick before I read off the rest of the stats. Another blank sun. This is now 8 days in a row without sunspots. And so far for 2019, 126 days without sunspots. Our current TCI is coming in at 2.85, so that continues to drop as we approach the beginning of solar cycle 25. Let's go back to space weather section here at Grand Solar Minimum. And right now we have a pretty quiet sun. No coronal holes to speak of, no CMEs or any kind of sunspots or even active region. This is what a quiet sun looks like. And you know, I was thinking about this earlier today and how a lot of global warming alarmists out there like to blow the whistle and take credit for the climate and the weather that we're experiencing today. But let's draw this other coincidence here, folks. The weather didn't really start to get really extreme until the last 2 years. And is it a coincidence that our sun has been quiet? And all the things that we talk about on the Grand Solar Minimum channel, with the science of this, quiet sun, low solar winds, means an erratic jet stream. Increased solar winds tighten up the jet stream a little bit. When you're constantly looking at higher speeds of solar wind during solar maximum, you get more of a stable jet stream. But since the last 2 years especially, we've seen a lot less activity on our sun, which has caused some very extreme jet stream patterns. I learned about jet streams, and when things start crossing north to south across the equator, that's concern of shorter growth seasons and really uncertainty to agriculture as we know it. And this particular person, I won't speak who, but he pointed out that these jet stream phenomena were happening. And 2019, it's even worse. But what this person didn't realize, in 2016 was the beginning of the decline of solar activity. And that's when we really have seen the frequency of extreme weather picking up almost on a daily basis. Now, is that a coincidence that the last 2 years we've seen extreme crop loss in areas that don't usually receive crop loss? Snow in the northern hemisphere was off the charts. Ice gain, and I'll talk more about that as well. More flooding, heavier rain, Harvey. I mean, these are the storms that we've never seen before until this particular part of our solar cycle. We've never seen rainfall amounts like this on a consistent basis, especially this year. Last year was just, you know, starting to get a little bit more frequent. This year, every day we have something to report about major flooding, washing out crop fields. This storm that we got, Barry, heavy rain, flooding was the story on this one. So again, the crop fields that were already underwater, Mississippi, are now reassuring that we're going to continue to be wet and underwater. There's nothing being planted out there, that's for sure. Let's take a look at our future look here at our sun. Again, nothing at all on the eastern limb, nothing on the other side, nothing. It is quiet. No coronal holes even really to talk much about. some weaker corona on the sun behind the eastern limb. But other than that, guys, it's part of solar minimum. And this is coming into a grand solar minimum, confirmed by Valentinas Response, really one of the few people out there right now whose work has been accepted, and what's in the work is confirming grand solar minimum from 2020 through 2055. And again, coincidence that the last 2 years we've seen cooling? Actually, we've seen a sharp decline in cooling in the last 3 years when you look at Roy Spencer's temperature anomalies, the UAH. So a blank sun for the last 3 years, off and on, really more consistent this year for sure. And this year, we've seen an uptick in earthquakes and extreme weather and rain bombs and flooding events and snow and ice. And it's not a coincidence, folks. We are in a time of this cycle where no one can speak of and live to see the next cycle. This is a once in a lifetime beyond thing, and folks, we're alive for it right now. And I think what I'm trying to say is that this is very real. It's being confirmed all over now. So it's not a coincidence. When you hear global warming people saying that we're experiencing all this extreme weather, it's not because it's warmer. It's not because of man climate. It's the last 2 years. Everyone can confirm we've seen some crazy weather the last 2 years. And if you look at the weather and the sun 10, 20, 30 years ago, you'll see that it was a lot more active, even during its minimum, than what it is right now. Take a look at our TSI coming in for July 7th, 2019, 1360.762, so a little bit up, but starting to see a downward trend in the last couple of days from the last readings of June 30th. Again, this data is 8 days behind, so we will report this as we get it as well. Not always is it available. So let's get started here, folks. More than 120 killed. That number's gone up from the last time we did a broadcast. At least 123 people were killed, tens of thousands are displaced, and at least 6 million affected in seasonal floods affecting India and Nepal over the past 10 days. The death toll is rising. Now, we did talk about possible areas seeing at least 2 more feet of rain, and they're still continuing to get the heavy rain. Seasonal monsoon continues after affecting Nepal and neighbor Indian states Assam, Bihar, Tripura, and Mizoram. The monsoon flooding first started in the Assam state in late June. It became worse on July 10th, 2019, when 3 people died and over 200,000 people were affected. According to the Assam State Disaster Management Authority, the situation has become much worse on July 14th. There were 11 deaths and 2.6 million people have now been affected across 28 districts. Rivers were flowing above the danger level in state in 14 locations. This included the Barak River in Chakar, the district there. Red alert was issued by Assam officials on July 15th. 4 million people across 30 of the state's 33 districts affected by floods now. 15 people have died and 80,000 were sheltering in 494 camps. Another 28 have died from flooding in Bihar, and up to 2.5 million people have been affected there. 1,000 families were evacuated from Mizoram after the river there flooded. 32 villages, 5 were killed from that. 2 more deaths reported in Tripura, with 18,000 people sheltering in 61 camps. So, once again, heavy rains in this region, like they said, that there was continue, and it's now affecting almost 6 million people in this region. So that's quite a jump from when we reported on this, Sunday afternoon. We'll continue to watch this as Watchers.news is as well. They have given us, this is their second update on that particular article. All right, let's go ahead and take a look at Tropical Cyclone Dennis. I guess it means Falcon, affecting the Philippines, heading towards Taiwan, China, and the Korean Peninsula. Strengthening tropical cyclone named Dennis by the JMA and Falcon by the PAGASA and dumping moderate to heavy rains over parts of northern Philippines on July 16th. The cyclone is expected to closely approach or make landfall over Babuyan, Philippines, and then possibly over the eastern coast of Taiwan as it moves towards China and the Korean Peninsula. The system continued to organize while approaching Luzon and strengthened into a tropical storm on July 16th, named it Dinas, I believe, as of 1500 UTC, July 16th, and it's still categorized right now as a tropical depression. 600 UTC on July 16th, tropical storm was about 675 miles south-southwest of Kadena Air Base in Okinawa. Its maximum 10-minute sustained winds were 40 miles per hour, and a 1-minute sustained wind was around 30 miles per hour. With gusts up to 60 miles per hour, the minimum central barometric pressure was at 994. Kind of similar to what we experienced with Barry. That's about as strong as it got. A lot of the maximum sustained wind stayed at 60 or less. This was not much of a storm, by the way. Barry was more of a rainmaker. Not a Harvey, but still adding injury to insult as we already had a lot of the South underwater in the first place. Again, thanks to Watchers.news for the article and the update. All right, guys, sit tight. We'll be right back. Don't go anywhere.
Do you like this show? Give us a thumbs up. Want to support us more? Share to your favorite social media platform. Buy a t-shirt or become a Patreon. All links are in the description below.
All right, we're back, and we'll start off tonight in the climate news section department with some concerning information. Again, we've reported, Ice Age Farmers reported on this as well. DAP 2030 today did a video talking about this. There's a lot more people talking about the food shortages that we're seeing now, not just in Walmart, but some Kroger chain stores. But here's an article that kind of caught our eyes as well because I've never heard of this before. Effective July 1st, the Nevada Department of Health and Human Services will be issuing Supplemental Nutritional Assistance Program, or SNAP benefits, on a staggered schedule to help relieve the first of the month rush on food banks and grocers. Benefits are now distributed on a staggered schedule during the first 10 days of the month. A recipient's issue date is determined by the last digit of their birth year. For example, people born in 1981 will receive their payments on the first of the month. Poor people that were born on the 85 will receive it on the 5th of the month. So the last year in your birthday, that is what day of the month you will receive your benefits. The change from issuing benefits on the first of the month aims to alleviate food shortages and allow grocery stores to keep shelves stocked, according to a press release. They are pretty much putting it out there, folks. They're concerned about food shortages. And now it's almost like the government's stepping in and saying, whoa, 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 whoa. All you people out there getting SNAP benefits, you're not allowed to ransack the stores and grab our supply. So let's stagger so there's enough for everybody. Makes sense. But why do we have to worry about this now? I mean, are we that close? Think about it. Are we really running off of last year's crops? Don't we have a surplus of food? Again, this is the first time I've ever seen this. I've ever heard about such, benefits being staggered for the first 10 days of the month to help stores, grocers like Walmart, Myers, Kroger's, to help them keep their shelves stocked. They don't get enough shipments. They're not getting the amount of produce, veggies, and other products like they were in the years past. This is why I'm kind of like, this is real stuff, guys. In the beginning of our broadcast in the space weather section, why I'm saying this is real. This is stuff that we've been taught, we've been talking about. Many people in the community, some were saying it was going to happen when it's happening. And I was one of those people that was hoping we were in for a soft landing. It's not just about green beans and peas or mashed potatoes right now. It's the fact that we're relying on such short food storage right now that last year's crop loss is affecting this year's supply. So if last year's crop loss is affecting this year's supply, and we know last year did not see the flooding that we've seen this year. We know last year these plants were happening all over the country. Ohio, your corn was fine, so was your soybean. Yeah, we were a little late, but we still made the deadlines. This year, we actually had farmers who planted all the way into July. Good luck. I'm hoping for a freak Indian summer like you guys are. I really am. Maybe the unexpected happens this fall and we get this weird heat wave. I don't know. But this is concerning, guys. When our government is taking steps to almost regulate. Okay, you get your food today. Okay, you get your food today. Okay, now you get your food today. I get it. It's for people who are receiving benefits from the government. I get it. Not everybody doesn't have a job, though. There are working families out there that just need a little help with getting food for their family. You just don't know the situation. Either way, it almost feels like the beginning of the control of the distribution of our food. And we haven't even seen what kind of crop loss we're facing for this year. That number will come out in January. So, again, Mari found this article earlier today. We left it on our website. I think everybody here should take a read. Think about this. Again, more evidence that we are seeing this food shortage that's being kind of one of those hidden things where you got to read between the lines here. When was the last time you've seen government step in and take action like this and delay the benefits being received in July? Think about it, guys. Think about it. The same month that we're seeing food shortages in the grocery stores, now it's affecting how we issue benefits to qualified people out there. Bernie Sanders and AOC to pretty much present a resolution declaring climate emergency. Okay, I can do this. Senator Bernie Sanders and Congress members AOC and Earl Blumenauer are introducing a joint resolution today declaring a climate emergency. If passed, the resolution itself would not compel any practical actions, but it aims to push Congress towards enacting a national, social, industrial, and economic mobilization of the resources and labor of the United States at a massive scale. Yeah, they want to transform your economy. As it's surging and booming and doing better than any time in the history of this country, these people here want to kill that and start all over again. Speaking to the Guardians, a spokeswoman for Senator Sanders' office says President Trump has routinely declared phony national emergencies to advance his deeply unpopular agenda, like sending Saudi Arabia bombs that Congress had blocked. No. They're protecting themselves from what's happening with Iran right now and the battle over oil in the Middle East. See, the United States doesn't have to get involved with any wars in oil anymore because we're the #1 producer now. We don't have to rely on foreign oil like we did back in the 90s and the early 2000s. Thanks to people like Trump and his policies, this country is stronger than ever economically. On the essential threat of climate change, Trump insists on calling it a hoax. Thank God. Thank God. Because these people right here, these two clowns, they want to take away whatever kind of progress that any of you have made in the last several years. I can't tell you the difference in my quality of life since the Obama administration. And actually, quite frankly, I've seen some pretty dark days. And I'm telling you, it's no coincidence that these two people here who are from the same party that showed me the last time we had dark days, they want to do that now for no reason at all. And I say no reason at all because there's nothing we can do to start or stop climate change. Nothing stops the sun. Nothing. The sun is going to do it at once. That's why people don't talk about it, because it's too inconvenient. Because everybody, government, scientists, everybody knows that the sun's going to do what it wants to do when it wants to do it. And there's nothing we can do about it. And just hope and pray that it continues to go through these cycles that regulate our climate, that help us with grow seasons and help us with other things. Crossing your fingers, that's all you can do right now. Because if we look back at what we've seen in the past in history, when these grand solar minimums occur, a lot of the things that we're learning from our history are coming true now. And we have more mouths to feed. I hear the people that talk about the modern minimum and how people died back then and all, the technology was terrible. I get it. I get you. But they didn't have 7.5 billion people to feed. Just think about how many more deaths we would have had if our planet was actually populated like that back then. No way. No way. So, if you're on the fence out there and you're having to catch our show for the first time, I guess my statement to you is, what if I could show you the raw data? The data that these two people don't want to show you because they don't understand it and they don't know how to. But what if I showed you the raw data that correlates the opposite of what these two are saying? And all this is about is pushing some political agenda of turning this country into a socialist country where the government controls what you eat, what you use to heat and put electricity in your home. They're picking they want to choose your medical insurance. They want to control when the food gets distributed to you. They're trying to get this done now before it really gets bad. They know the truth. Both sides do. This is a cash grab. This is a cash grab so this side of the political party stays intact during the worst times of our existence. But it's, money's not going to mean anything in the future. It's going to be paper. And paper you're going to burn to keep yourself warm at some point. It's just, at this point right here as an American, and this is why our channel gets suppressed. This is why we don't see the views that we probably should have. Our stuff gets buried because we're trying to teach people how to do things for yourself, because the government is not going to, if the government was going to be here to help us during this event, we would already see it in mainstream medias. We would already see people at YMCAs giving out instructional classes on how to grow or how to make it during these difficult times and what we need to do to pull together as a community. You don't see any of that because the government doesn't want any of that. They want to be in control. That way there's enough for the elite, for the powers that be and their families. The rest of us, hey, sorry about your luck. We interviewed Dr. Circus, who practices natural medicine as his main priority of occupation, and has been writing about climate change, cold climate change, for the past 10 years, and has seen the light as well. And his information gets super suppressed because he actually has the solutions for us medically during the times like grand solar minimum. And then we talk about the climate part of it, which he's spot on with that as well. He understands cloud nucleation. He understands the sun cycles. He understands that lower solar activity creates what we are seeing right now with the weather. He understands all of that. And then with the crop loss. And, the unfortunate part is that he's a little more harsher with what he thinks as far as how many people are going to perish from this event. His number's a lot higher than mine, let's put it that way. And I've heard other people say similar things. All right, let's move on. I've seen enough of those two. You always got to have one of these stories here. Hey, we're going to go study global warming up at the North Pole because it's warm enough. Greenland lost about 2 billion tons of ice in one day, so we should be able to plow right through. July 15, 2019, the Norwegian icebreaker on a mission to the North Pole for Institute of Marine Research was forced to turn back after meeting considerably thicker and more massive ice masses than expected, which the vessel was not capable of breaking through. Thick 1-year ice is combined with large batches of multi-year ice joined together in powerful helmets, and several of these impenetrable to us, said Captain Johnny Peter Hansen. The ice is up to 3 meters, almost 10 feet thick in the middle of July, and not even the researchers' long special purpose chainsaws were able to penetrate the ice. Polar bears were seen this past winter in the middle of the Barents Sea, which shows that the ice edge was very far south. In the middle of July, we see few signs of thawing, and that spring has come. We had expected more melting, and that the ice was more, you know, who do you believe, right? You got the mainstream media who is saying it's melting up here at record. Here is the actual article here, and I'm sure you can translate this. The original source on Robert Felix's website. Ice Age Now, and he's pretty good about catching these kind of articles. This is probably the second or third one I've seen in the last year that he reports on. So very, very, very funny that we keep running into these practical stories about these global warming research missions and the icebreakers can't get through the ice. I mean, 10 feet thick. Wow. That doesn't sound like a lack of ice up there, folks. All right, so here's some unfortunate news today. A friend of mine sent me this article link, and I read it. And first of all, it's not an attack from New Scientist. So let's be straight on this. In fact, Mari had spoken to Valentina this afternoon, and she had nothing but good things to say about this organization. They were very polite to her. They are simply reporting on what is happening right now. Basically, a high-profile scientific journal is investigating how it came to publish a study suggesting that global warming is down to natural solar cycles. The paper was criticized by scientists for containing very basic errors about how Earth moves around the sun. The study was published online June 21st by Scientific Reports, and an open access journal run by Nature Research, which also lists Nature Journal among its titles. A spokesperson told New Scientist that it is aware of concerns raised over the paper, which was authored by 5 academics based in Northumbria University, University of Bradford, and the University of Hull, all in the UK. Now, the author suggests that Earth's temperature rises 1 degree. You know, here's what's crazy to me. I'm reading this article. By the way, Ken Rice of the University of Edinburgh criticized the paper for elementary mistakes about celestial mechanics. It's well known the sun moves around the barycenter of the solar system during the influence of other solar system bodies, mainly Jupiter, he says. This does not mean, as the paper is claiming, that then leads to changes in the distance between the sun and the Earth. I can give you an example of the distance between the sun and the Earth changing. Correct me if I'm wrong, the Milankovitch cycle? Is that one? I'm pretty sure all of you that are following this channel are well versed on that, by the way. This guy was pretty much very rude. It feels like he's being a bully right here. The claim that we will see warming in the coming centuries because the sun will move closer to Earth as it moves around the solar system barycenter is simply wrong. Okay, well, he is urging the journal to withdraw the paper and says it's embarrassing it was published. Hey, Mr. Rice of University of Edinburgh, why don't you do the work yourself first before you come out and tell us what an embarrassment this paper was? And the thing that really fires me up here, I guess, is that they don't even mention about Zarkova until the very bottom of this. But she's, in my opinion, I mean, her work, she's being pushed around right now. These people are upset because she's going against the grain. And Nature and other peer-reviewed scientists have approved this paper to be published in their journal. And these people are throwing a fit, stomping their feet, screaming like little babies. They're bullying a woman, and they're jealous that her work shows the results of what's happening and confirms the grand solar minimum. Also confirms many other things. Super grand minimum solar minimum cycles. 5 grand cycles within a 2,000 year period, or approximately 2,100 years. Okay? 5 grand cycles. Every 350 to 415. So the Maunder minimum was the beginning of this current super grand solar minimum. And yes, the Maunder was a lot colder than other solar minimums. So you fast forward around a little bit more than 200 years, you have the Dalton minimum. Not quite the effects that we saw from the Maunder minimum. But hold the phone. Here we are approaching roughly 400 years later. And we are seeing grand solar minimum, Maunder minimum type conditions around the world. Volcano eruptions, earthquakes, more snow, more melt, more water, more floods, less crops showing up everywhere, guys. Again, I wanted to show you this article to just make you aware of the criticism and the bullying that Dr. Zarkova is going through. And the work that she did was not heavily funded, like people are suggesting. Not at all. In fact, we hope we can help with that down the road and in the future. And as we speak, folks, my Twitter hacker is really doing a number right now on my Twitter account. Sorry to interrupt with that, but I must be touching a nerve out there. Mainstream doesn't like me when I start touching nerves. I've gotten 7 texts in a row now confirming my new password for my Twitter account. Thanks, guys. Love you too. But no, I wanted to point this out, that there are people bullying Valentinas Response. They're not even mentioning they're not even saying she's wrong about the grand solar minimum. They're bitching about how her warming per 100 years of 0.5 degrees Celsius every 100 years, that's not enough for them. That's not enough. 3 degrees Celsius in the next 600 years, that's not enough to create panic and fear with our agenda so we can continue to rake in the cash. And that's what this really comes down to, guys. She's messing with their money. I want to support her. I want to make sure she gets more credit. And she deserves funding. And I'm hoping we can find a way to help get donations to Valentina. But here is Professor Zarkova. This is her response. I doubt that you have done the proper SIM calculations prior our paper's publication. As you emails to me have shown, you never knew about the scale of the sun displacement at 0.02 AU, about the barycenter of the solar system, and the focus of the Earth's orbit. And she goes on here, I teach a class, let me go ahead and zoom this in, I have diabetes eyes here, here we go, that's better. I teach a class when I discuss the motion of the sun around the barycenter, and even calculate the magnitude of this, so certainly knew about it. And if you draw a circle or an ellipse, please, the sun into its focus and start moving the sun to either side of this on this distance, you obtain the estimations we presented. This is a basic geometry. Yes, if you did such a drawing, you would indeed obtain the estimates you presented. It would, however, be wrong. Clearly, the orbital dynamics of multi-planet systems is rather complicated. However, it is not correct to assume, as you seem to be doing, she says, that the Earth has an orbit around the solar system's barycenter that has a constant semi-major axis and eccentricity. The Earth's orbit around the sun is perfectly perturbed by the other solar system planets, but these perturbations are slow, timescales of tens of thousands of years. One of the timescale, decades, centuries of the orbit around the sun can be taken to have a fixed semi-major axis and eccentricity. Say that 5 times fast. And I'm sober, folks. Bear in mind that the figures I sent you and that are included in my blog post are from a full in-body simulation that properly recovers the Milankovitch cycle and the motion of the sun around the solar system's barycenter. They are not just geometrical representations. So again, just because the sun executes a motion about the solar system's barycenter that can have a magnitude of about 0.0 AU does not mean the distance between the Earth and sun varies by this amount. Regards, Ken. In the back and forth of the conversations, Ken Rice was not even aware of sin and denied the sun displacement caused by the planets. This is Zarkova replying to Ken here. Plus, they, Rice and Brown, have accused Valentina's team in violation of Kepler's laws, but she obtained this motion from the JPL infirmarius. So, basically, more disinfo about Zarkova's paper to minimize the one glaring fact. And they want this paper disregarded because she is confirming a grand solar minimum. So they're picking on all this other stuff with the sun. If I'm not mistaken, doesn't Zarkova have a PhD in astrophysics? I'm just saying. I mean, you know, she does have a PhD in astrophysics. Here is Mike Brown's post. He says it was very disappointing to see the claims of Valentina Zarkova given an uncritical run, fresh insights into climatic effects of cosmic changes. Her work makes claims about climate change being caused by recent variations in Earth's distance from the sun. Here we go. Here we go. They're not talking about the grand solar minimum. They're complaining about SIM. All right. But this is at odds with 400 years of physics and astronomy, including the Kepler's law, planetary motion by NASA. Consequently, her claims about past and future climate change and its causes cannot be taken seriously. No, what can't be taken seriously is the fact that you're using research. What am I looking for? Research mechanics from the 17th century, basically. Meanwhile, Zarkova is doing the real work. My letter to the dodgy climate claims of Zarkova being given an uncritical run. The sun's Earth distance has been rapidly changing in recent centuries, nor will it hasn't been changing, he's saying, nor will it during coming millennium. He's right. It takes 100,000 years for this orbital cycle for the Earth. Here's Valentina's response to Mr. Brown. 7/17/2019, Sun and Climate. The Australian Sun and Climate Michael Brown letters criticizes our paper, which has one of three discussed by Graham Lloyd in his discussion of solar and magnetic cycles associated with climate cycles on Earth. Brown is disappointed that our work on subtle variations in Earth's separation from the sun is at odds with Kepler's laws, a cornerstone of the 17th century astronomy. Again, ancient stuff here. Basic, yes, I get it. He had read beyond the summary and he would have found that close links between oscillations in the solar baseline magnetic field, solar radiance, and temperatures are established without any involvement of solar inertial motion. Our paper is one of more than a dozen related papers by very esteemed authors published in leading physics journals cited by us. We are confident it represents a useful contribution to the 21st century astronomy. Of course it does. Of course it does. I mean, we can't, guys, we preach every day that science is not settled. So we can't just take Zarkova's work and say, all right, that's the Bible, that's it, case closed. No. Her paper is going to lead to other papers, and they're going to lead to other discoveries, and it's going to be a foundation for how we look at climate, how we look at change, how we look at everything that involves the sun and our climate on Earth. I want to point out an article, well, not really an article, an interview I want you guys to check out here. Anthony Watts, Judith Perry. Listen to some of this, and she's very hopeful. She is trying to explain to people that Miami's not sinking, very low sea level there. She's trying to calm down some of these alarmist claims here. And Mari and I listened to this interview earlier. I think it's worth a listen. Y'all should take a listen. But again, I will caution. I think Curry, she's being very optimistic. And I think she's just trying to inject some positivity out of this. A lot like Valentina. Her hopes and beliefs are that we all pull through with this and adapt and thrive. Same with Adapt 2030 and Ice Age Farmer. He shares similar views as well. But some of us also are seeing alarming red flags that don't make us feel like this is going to be a soft landing whatsoever. As Adapt 2030 today shared a video in a couple of our tweets in his video today, these signs are becoming more and more increasing across your supermarkets. I want to read you the email that Del Monte had sent Mari on July 15th. Thanks for your email and interest in Del Monte Foods. We are aware that some retail stores may currently be out of Del Monte Foods and apologize for any inconvenience or disappointment. Our fruits and vegetables and tomatoes are packed at the peak of ripeness, and the growing seasons and crop yield may vary each year. Occasionally, as in this situation, the previous year's crop may not meet 100% of consumers' demand. As a result, consumers may find that the product is out of stock for several weeks. This is only a temporary situation, and we expect to return to normal supply levels by mid to late August. Thanks again for contacting us. If we can be of more help, please call us 1-800-543-3090, Monday through Friday, 9 to 5 Eastern Time, or use the Contact Us link on our website. Chris, Del Monte Foods Consumer Affairs. Hope you just didn't lose your job over that. You're basically telling everybody that last year's crop yields did not meet the consumer's needs, and we all know how weak crop loss we had last year, but yet it was still kind of alarming because we haven't seen that kind of crop loss on that scale yet. And like I mentioned earlier, we know this year is going to be worse. Read between the lines, folks. Dustin Cook sent us in bunches of photos here, guys. More pictures of empty produce shelves. More grocers' signs. They're all saying the same thing. We will have a supply refill by mid to late August because they know the coming harvests. I don't know if anybody's paying attention at Del Monte, but the farmers were about 4 to 5 weeks behind on planting. And I want you guys to notice something here. And this is happening everywhere as well. The placement of the food. Some of these are shelves with, boxes full of cans. Some of these shelves are full of, like this one right here. Let me go back to this. Look at the bottom of the shelf, guys. Look how they've got them stacked towards the front to make it as if, oh, we got that in stock. Don't worry. We got that in stock. Not so much here. I think that's still pretty good stock right there. There's your produce, guys. Pretty weak. Kelly Jo from southeastern Ohio sent us photos of these grocery store shelves at 10:30 a.m. And I can tell you right now, they've already been overnight stocked. And so she went at a normal time where everything wasn't picked over, and there was a lot of glaring holes of product missing off the shelves. A lot like what we're seeing right now. Some of it's worse. So when we see things like this, and then scientists we trust like Dr. Zarkova, PhD in astrophysics, and she wants to confirm the upcoming grand solar minimum along with other people who have been trying to tell us the same thing, but finally have someone in the scientific world who is willing to put their neck out there and tell us the truth for once. But this information and other natural remedy information channels will be, how could I say this? Just not easily accessed. Let's just put it that way. Easily accessed with the information that you need to know now. And, you know, for those of you who went out and grabbed seeds to start planting now, you better do it indoors. You better have a greenhouse. You're not planting anything outdoors right now. I feel like this year most of the country will see an early frost. That's just my opinion. On top of the fact that temperatures won't stay as hot as long as we need them. Mari, I sent Mari some pictures today of some corn that they were selling for $3 and maybe in our next show on Thursday night we'll include those images as well. But the corn was no longer than from my wrist to the tip of my fingers, and about 60% less in circumference than what usual corn looks like, especially this time. So it's getting real, folks, and we're here to put awareness into everyone's mind so they don't act surprised when things get real bad next year. Indoor growing is going to have to become a very quick innovation that we have to figure out immediately before we see even worse food shortages. And I'm telling you, if it's showing up in the US like this now, imagine what it's going to do to these second and third world countries next season and the following season. And then eventually here in the United States, how far will it go as far as crop loss and food shortages? And I'm telling you, when you got grocers like Walmart, Myers, and Kroger's that are showing these kind of bare shelves, and every time I go into the store, oh, and flour is the new one that I saw today as well. I went into a couple different Walmarts, and both of those stores had very weak looking flour shelves. I can report this though, wheat is finally being harvested in Nebraska today, so that's some good news. That has begun. They were hoping to start much earlier than this. In fact, they wanted to get going on Monday, but they finally are now harvesting some wheat, thanks to a friend of mine, Matt, for giving us the behind-the-scenes look of what it's like in the life of a farmer. Very informal videos that he sends me. He tries to help me understand just exactly what we are going through right now. All right, guys, don't go anywhere. We'll be right back with our weather report.
Do you like this show? Give us a thumbs up. Want to support us more? Share to your favorite social media platform, buy a t-shirt, or become a Patreon. All links are in the description below.
All right, so we got a couple articles to talk about. Barry Remnants floods Arkansas's interstate. Weather.com. Just wanted to give us an update here. It's not really a big article, mainly a video. Let's go ahead and turn off the sound. Mississippi, obviously already underwater. Louisiana, most parts of Louisiana underwater. Some areas in Louisiana, they're not sure that they're going to come back. They're not sure this water's going anywhere, which is pretty scary to think of. So this wasn't the catastrophic hurricane, thankfully, but this did drop a lot of rain, and this is going to disrupt another part of the country's food supply. It looks like this throughout Louisiana, Mississippi, Arkansas. Parts of Tennessee got some flooding as well. Nothing like what we were seeing here. Ah, yes, more hail. That was not really part of our broadcast, but hey, it's relevant. Look at the size of it. Again, hail is every day now. I mean, with the flooding, there's not a day that goes by that we don't see golf ball size or tennis ball size or now grapefruit. Barry's not done yet. What's next? Let's find out. Of course, weather.com. The remnants of Barry will soak parts of the lower Mississippi.
That's the remnants of Barry yesterday, moving through
Thank you very much. Barry's remnant is currently centered over Illinois, but the torrential rain from it was focused in southern Arkansas much of Tuesday. Water rescues and closed or washed out roads were reported in northeastern Hempstead, Howard, and central Nevada counties in Arkansas, where a flash flood emergency was previously in effect but has since been dropped. A portion of Interstate 30 in Clark County, Arkansas had to be closed because of floodwaters, according to the state's Department of Transportation. Doppler radar estimate rainfall totals up to 12 inches in southwestern Arkansas as of Tuesday morning. The highest total of rain gauge in the region was 13.5 inches in Murfreesboro, Arkansas. That's Murfreesboro, Arkansas, not to be confused with Murfreesboro, Tennessee, which is about, half hour away from Nashville. Less than a half inch of shy of the state's tropical cyclone rainfall record of 13.9 inches set during Tropical Storm Allison in 1989. Let's go back. Okay, so yeah, close to coming out of a solar minimum was Allison, by the way. Damage from a possible tornado was reported Tuesday afternoon in Marshall County, Mississippi, where a trampoline was blown away and windows of homes were blown out, according to local media reports. Flash flood watches have been issued by the National Weather Service from Arkansas into northern Mississippi, western Tennessee, western Kentucky, southern Missouri, and southern Illinois. Additional rainfall in these areas could trigger more flash flooding through Tuesday evening. Isolated rainfall totals up to 5 inches are possible in northern Mississippi. Tropical moisture associated with Barry's remnants will move farther eastward on Wednesday, fueling showers and thunderstorms with the torrential rainfall. Localized flash flooding is possible from Tennessee Valley into the northeast, which is coming this way. Tomorrow is going to be a washout here in upstate New York and most other parts as well. And this weather.com article kind of gives it a little history report here about this storm and where it went. Here's some of the rain totals. Alabama, almost 10 inches in Montrose. Murfreesboro, we just reported 13.5. Langley, 12.73. Langley, Arkansas. Florida, 4.7 inches. Louisiana, 23.58 inches near Ragley. Near Oberlin, we got 18.16 inches. Marksville, 16.8. Baton Rouge, 6 inches. Past Christian, 30 inches of rain in Mississippi. Missouri, 4 inches of rain in Poplar Bluff. Tennessee, Cookeville had 6.09 inches of rain. Memphis picked up about 5.5 inches of rain as well. Beaumont, Texas, 4.61 inches of rain. So widespread areas received more than 4 inches of rain. Some got more than others. Of course, the grand winner of it all was Ragley, Louisiana, at 23.58 inches of rain. Now, this was reported all through over the weekend. So, again, the storm was predicted to drop about 8 to 10 inches in Louisiana, parts of Mississippi in the beginning. Some folks thought it was going to get a little stronger, drop 20 to 24 inches of rain. Thankfully, we only saw that in a few areas. Also, the storm surge was not as bad as once thought either, because we had 5 feet of storm surge already in Louisiana, or I'm sorry, New Orleans, before the storm even came. We got 8 inches of rain before Barry even affected the area. This was tropical moisture that was just streaming up from the Gulf. Part of that system, but not directly the storm at the time. But 7 feet was the most storm surge at Amanda Pass, Louisiana. Berwick, Louisiana, 6.7 feet. And that was really, after that, it's kind of minor, guys. 3.5 feet at Lake Pontchartrain. So I think people were ready. There were already evacuations in place. So I think that's why we heard about less water rescues, less deaths, less injuries. Here's the wind report. The peak wind was in Pinto Island at 72 miles an hour. New Iberia, Louisiana, 61 miles an hour. So I think we all can agree. I mean, right now, honestly, I'm so sick of this. Floods everywhere. These homes that are being damaged. I mean, every day I have to show you guys this stuff. I didn't do this last year because I couldn't find this last year. This was every other week. I mean, this is a common sight everywhere in the United States. And we're not done, folks. Flood season is not done yet, especially for this area and the mid-central plains, Midwest, the Great Lakes, Northern Plains, maybe a little bit here in the Northeast. Not as this bad, but still some higher water than usual. It's amazing that there's 219 images to look at here, folks. And just when you think you'd seen everything, you get to see another angle of it. And then, of course, the mess that you have once this water recedes. These people are looking at weeks of cleanup. This is going to affect the fishing industry down there. I mean, so much right now is at stake. Of course, you know, these bare shelves were from the storm. We get that. That's not from crop loss or anything like that. Let's get that straight before anybody tries to sensationalize that. Just some unbelievable efforts that people went through to try to prevent the flooding. And hopefully it worked. That's a lot of work. A lot of volunteers, a lot of hours of prep. And I think that's why, look at it. These people are actually putting their furniture on 2x4 blocks. Just in case if the water did get into the house. Beautiful home, by the way. Just people were ready. And they were ready because people were paying attention to the warnings. A lot of people on YouTube, a lot of people in the mainstream did a good job of communicating that, look, we're not saying it's going to be bad, but let's not wait until the last minute. This thing's going to bring us a lot of rain. We are going to deal with floods. You know, let's get prepared. And thankfully, everybody did. They listened to the warnings. I heard city officials in New Orleans, they were complimenting its citizens by getting off the roads, by obeying the curfews, by staying out of the way so they could do their work to do the cleanup, to get some normality back. So, again, could have been worse. Everybody was, I think, was very prepared. And at this point, I mean, we've got a lot of damage to assess still. And we've got a lot of possibility of bad things that will come out of this economically. But for the most part, I think a lot of folks are starting to pay attention now. And a lot of folks are going to stop with this. Is it our fault? Is it natural? Just stay aware just for the sake of being aware, because this is some scary stuff sometimes. I know I'm a weather fanatic, and I used to enjoy watching the extreme weather videos when I was a kid. And now I can't get away from it, period. So this is not entertaining anymore. Not when they're every day in multiple parts of the world. This happened when I was a kid. It was a freak incident. All right, let's get into some weather news for us locally. Kind of take a look and see what is going on out there. I'll drag up Windy real quick. Take a look at our current situation. Let's go with some rain. Right now, Maine, you guys up in the very northern tip are experiencing some heavy showers. Some showers getting ready to move through the southwestern part of Ohio. Western Kentucky is experiencing rain. Let's see if we can put this in motion, actually. Which way is this going? Yeah, so it's going to continue to be heavy. A line of storms moving through Ohio overnight tonight into early tomorrow. And that's where we'll see the bulk of our rain through the early parts of the day. And then the latter part, some heavier showers heading towards the upstate New York, New Hampshire, Connecticut, Massachusetts, before finally racing off to the Atlantic. But then looks like another threat of some, wow, weird. Check out what's happening here in the Great Lakes. Look at this. This storm system breaks away. Maybe that's for Friday. That's not that far away, so that's kind of a weird feature here that Windy is indicating. Any of you in the chat right now that are watching this, has anybody ever seen that before? Let's watch it again. Hit the play button first. This system right here, as it's moving through the Great Lakes, we get a big chunk of shower activity breaking off in the UP, coming down through Detroit, and then making its way back towards the west as the rest of it goes towards the east. Interesting. Anybody has any insight on that? I'd love to hear that. Let's go to the GFS map. See what we got coming here in the next few days. Currently looking at some showers moving in. Ohio, Indiana, Illinois does not need the moisture. Parts of Iowa tonight also getting drenched. Minnesota, North Dakota, more rain for South Dakota, heavy rain as well. As we go through Wednesday, it's going to be a washout from Indiana all the way through the northeast, upstate New York. Some heavier shower activity overnight Wednesday into Thursday morning. Then we get some crazy moisture again. And even the GFS was picking up that weird motion in its forecast as well for Friday. There's that little area right there. Now, it doesn't go as far as windy does, but it does show this area of precipitation breaking off from the main system and moving forward with its system here. So I don't know. Maybe we'll maybe one of them's got it wrong. I'm not sure. But right now, GFS is not forecasting that weird westward motion there. And for the most part, nothing too crazy happening over the next couple of days. More rain to move into the northeast. More showers and storms to come across Indiana, Ohio, Illinois through Missouri, St. Louis, Iowa. More flood possibilities along the Ohio River. July 22nd, more monsoon rain for New Mexico, parts of Colorado, heavy rain across Oklahoma through Arkansas. Once again, Kentucky, Tennessee, North Carolina, Virginia, and Ohio. Indiana seems to be the new target of all the moisture coming through our country. And then a high pressure system tries to make itself comfortable on Wednesday, July 24th, bringing more rain to the south. Not as much as we were originally reporting about a week ago, but still widespread scattered showers across the United States through July 25th. And then this low pressure system, really this thing's impressive. It actually hooks up with some tropical moisture on July 27th, and it's going to be a soaker that weekend on the East Coast as this storm slowly makes its way through Canada and off to the Atlantic Ocean. Again, the south is setting up for just more rain. There's a high pressure system setting out there in the middle of the Atlantic that's kind of putting this moisture on a conveyor belt, and that belt, that bubble, it's coming out here, so it's spitting this moisture up this way. So the high pressure system is turning things this way. Watch the redevelopment. It's like the atmosphere just continues to load up, bringing moisture. Really, Ohio, it's going to be a wet one. We got about 6 or 7 major systems moving through. Sorry about that, folks. You got me at the controls here. So Indiana, Ohio, Pennsylvania, New York, it's your turn. The south, intermittent showers off and on. Typical moisture for this time of year, nothing too crazy. Pretty heavy precipitation moving across the area on Sunday through Missouri, Iowa. Some heavy rain. Nebraska, see how you're looking. Some dry days coming for you guys, finally. Look at this, maybe some scattered showers. Nebraska, Kansas, through Friday, still dry weather. Nicely done here, folks. And then we get maybe some shower activity on the weekend. A little heavy there on the 21st through the 22nd. Again, we can take heavy rain once every 6 days. High pressure sets right up over our farming belt too, folks. This is kind of good news here for Iowa, Missouri, Nebraska, Kansas, Oklahoma. As high pressure is what you want right there. It's going to protect you from any moisture. It's drier air usually in these high pressure systems. As we head out to July 25th, these lows will prevail and bring moisture once again to the regions before another high pressure system kind of scoots down the middle of the United States but quickly escapes as we see more of a wetter pattern forming towards the end of July. So more moisture, and I got to guess that's coming from the tropics, folks, as hurricane season continues to peak. Right now, we're still in the early stages of the season. Our peak of the season really isn't until September. So let's take a quick look at our temperatures. I'm curious to see the end of this month. I kind of know it's coming here in the future, near future. And we were looking at this at our last broadcast. A noticeably cooler record or temperatures to hit the United States. So here we are this weekend. And I know here in upstate New York, we're expecting 90s. Friday into Saturday, and then to Sunday. And then we see cooler air trying to work its way in from Canada, or the Arctic, I should say. Canada's just the middleman. Look at this, daytime highs in the 70s and 60s in Ohio, Indiana, Illinois, Iowa, Minnesota, Wisconsin, parts of Nebraska, parts of Kansas. Upper 70s. July 23rd. These are daytime highs, folks. Wow. Why is it cooler? Well, we got a lot of rain hitting these areas too. Look at that. Daytime highs, July 24th. 77 in South Bend, Indiana. Pittsburgh, 73. It's going to be warmer on the coast. 81 degrees, 83 in the capital region here in New York. Florida, hot, hot, hot. Parts of southern Georgia, Atlanta, 76 degrees for a high, July 24th. Really? That heat that I was talking about too in the south, that's really... GFS has really changed its tone with the heat across the south through Texas. This is normal summer weather here. 90s and low 90s and mid 80s. Southwest in the 90s. These are daytime highs for July 26th. We got some 60s in Denver. Mid 70s, low 70s in Nebraska. My question is to you farmers out there that's getting all this dry weather, guys, look at this. High pressure is bringing in drier and cooler air. Mid 70s for daytime highs. I'm sure you're welcoming this dry weather, but don't you need the heat and the light as well? I mean, this part of the month is crucial for that. And look at this area. These are the areas that we're concerned about with the agriculture, right here. They are not getting the proper heat. Bravo to weather.com, by the way. They're the ones that called a cooler July in this region after the middle of the month. They are right once again. NOAA, surprisingly, was wrong. That was sarcastic, by the way. Again, July 28th. Mid-70s for most of this farming community here. Yeah, we got some 90s in Texas. The local areas that we expect to see in the high 90s. A little bit of heat wave up there in Montana. Even the Northwest. Woo! Fires right up. July 29th. Watch out. Triple digits, guys. But for the rest of the country, not so much. And then that's it. That dies down. That heat wave dies down the next day. Daytime highs. July 30th. Dayton, Ohio, 74. Cleveland, 78. Parts of upstate New York, 69 degrees for the daytime high. A little bit of summer comes back all of a sudden, July 30th. Wednesday, daytime heat. Mid-70s upstate New York. Mid-70s in the north central plains. Kansas and Nebraska finally making it back into the low 80s. So by the time we get to August 1st, the dog days of summer, this is what your dog days look like. Low 80s, mid 70s, some areas in the 60s. South, you're hot. Southwest, West Coast, you're hot. But for the most part, not a very normal looking July for temperatures, guys. So yeah, we're experiencing some heat waves here and there throughout the country. But the areas that we really need the heat, it's just not going to be existent, unfortunately. And that concerns me about the condition of these crops. What the harvest actually is going to look like. What kind of yields are we talking about? And I'll have Mari, we'll put the pictures for the corn that I found today in our Thursday night broadcast. It's absolutely ridiculous. Mari, do you want to come over here and say hello and before we wrap it up for tonight's show? By the way, Al No is definitely gone. We're in the neutral stage. Hi, Mari.
What a show, Jake.
Thank you.
Jam-packed.
It was.
Tonight.
Did a good job.
I'm still a little bothered about how people are treating Valentina. It really makes my blood boil to see these ego-filled guys from different universities try to combat her on her paper. And they clearly have not read and taken in all the data.
Nope.
They're nitpicking like these little things and then trying to twist it to their own narrative. And if you look at their social media accounts, They're all AGW alarmists.
Of course. That goes against their agenda.
But anyway, let's look at my little notes from the chat. Grizzly just popped in and said he wanted to find out why the lightning was purple Saturday night. And we've discussed this on a few shows, that more nitrogen and oxygen molecules in the atmosphere can produce that purple, real vibrant purple, violet kind of lightning.
It's also an indication of a very highly charged atmosphere. Lee Wilbarger, in the earlier days of my discovery of the grand solar minimum, that's one of the things he pointed out. The purple skies, the more purple it is, the more highly charged the atmosphere is.
Doug asked if I saw his order on Teespring. We don't have visibility of who orders what on Teespring. He ordered a sweatshirt, like a hoodie, and I told him you'd be jealous.
Yes,
because
I'm getting that next.
You've been wanting one.
It's on my wish list.
I haven't gotten one. So thank you for supporting us with that, Doug. Thor and Matt are mods in the chat, so thank you guys,
What's up, guys?
For being here with us. A few people mentioned that David Dubine mentioned us on Adapt 2030. I want to thank Adapt 2030 for giving us a shout out like that. We shared the empty shelves the beginning of July, and we've had people. It's almost snowballed into just crazy amounts of photos being emailed and sent in and left in comments to us about empty shelves, what the status is. It's fantastic information to take in. We really have to be paying attention to this, and people need to be preparing now. Whether or not they believe what's going on, it's still great practice to be prepared. So, I really appreciate everyone communicating what they're seeing worldwide. Let's see what we got here. Todd Hathaway, he said he had like a bunch of master's degrees and he believes in Valentina's work. So thank you, Todd. The weird little swirl going to the east, Walter, who, by the way, did a super chat, thank you, Walter, said that it was the Coriolis effect.
I'll have to look into that.
So I'm not going to get into it. I have the definition up, but it's so hot here today, Jake.
Yeah,
isn't it?
It's hot. Robbie Hill says, snow in Canada, Jake. Eh?
We have to turn off our AC so it's not so loud when we do live shows. So it's like a sauna in here right now.
It would sound like we were doing a broadcast from the inside of a refrigerator. So.
Oh dear. Let's see. People are talking to each other enough to get the word out, but other issues will distract people, such as wars, earthquakes, volcanoes. The main focus will quickly redirect to survival for most people, and that's also from Todd. It's so true. It doesn't matter what the issue is, whether you believe in grand solar minimum or something crazy happening with a volcano and causing a year without a summer, or just severe weather. Be prepared, really, people. And there's some great, fantastic discussion going on in the chat. People are talking about different lighting situations, whether or not to have a greenhouse or grow indoors. I recommend actually having both, toggle them. And if you go with a greenhouse, start off with cheap materials like plastic. We're combating natural elements like hail. You don't want to spend a lot of money on
something you can repair cheaply.
We got to focus on cheap, affordable solutions that you can replace easily. So stock up on plastic, and people are talking about like LED lighting because they use less energy. Some people are worried about them rationing energy in the future. There's a lot of interesting discussions in reference to the SNAP dates. I guess some states already do that. Some toggle it already, and some people are saying that's just a state that's behind, that's just catching up. It might not be directed to a food storage situation. Other people are saying that the mass influx of immigrants out near like Nevada, California area, that is also sort of causing stress on the system. These people, it's been proven that they're coming here to sort of reap the benefits of, good old USA. They come over the border and get free benefits, and look at what the liberals are supporting with socialist agenda. It's a hard situation that we face as a country, and it's this food supply is no joke. We have to be very careful how it's managed, and the best way to do that is to take action yourself and get prepared and start growing and banking seeds and doing what you can to fend for yourself and your family.
Thank you, Mari, for that full report from the chat. Again, thanks for everyone for participating. A great group of mods that we have tonight.
And I did mention briefly in the chat, I did speak with Valentina today about getting a fundraiser. I will have more information to that, our next live show. We really, as a community, need to support her research. She is being bullied and harassed by people who are who have an agenda. And we want to keep her research going. She is just showing the science and doesn't deserve the disrespect that she is getting.
No, but she has thick skin. She'd probably be a great candidate to become a Browns fan as well. So she is a warrior, is all I can say about Valentina. What a warrior. All right, guys, that's going to do it for us tonight. Thank you for tuning in. We will do another live broadcast on Thursday. I know we're kind of off kilter here on the scheduling this week. Thursday night. And then Sunday afternoon, we saw a pretty good showing of listeners on Sunday afternoon. So I think we're going to continue that. And we're going to have an old friend joining us as that fly on the wall during our broadcast and just discussing climate views and everything like that. We're going to have our friend Henrik from Denmark joining us as well to talk about grand solar minimum news and everything that surrounds it. That's going to do it for us tonight, guys. We will see you again on Thursday night at 9 p.m. Until then, we will talk soon, guys. Make sure you check out our Patreon channel, Facebook, and, of course, at Twitter at Grand Solar Minimum. So, guys, take care out there. We'll talk soon.